Hi everyone, Thao here. So this is the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, and it marks the return of one of my favorite Galaxy Watch features, the rotating bezel. Now, while the Watch 6 has a sleek, sportier look that I know many prefer, the Classic is a little more versatile in that it won't look as out of place in more professional settings. Looks aside, if you ask me what's so great about the rotating bezel, it's really two main things for me. First, it acts like a shield for the display. Like, I have physical damage on both my Watch 4 and 5 from banging them against stuff. And the second thing, it's just more intuitive and precise to use versus the digital bezel where I almost always end up just using the actual touchscreen. The tactile feedback is also so satisfying and almost addictive. I like it, but everyone's different. Think of it this way. Would you prefer a physical knob to control the volume in your car, or would you prefer a touchscreen slider instead? Both will get the job done, right? So the 43mm Watch 6 Classic comes with a 1.3-inch Super AMOLED display. It's definitely a more refined looking watch with a bigger, brighter, and sharper screen. Performance-wise, there's also a bump in RAM and an upgraded processor, which Samsung says is 18% faster. That's a welcomed improvement considering that they've been using the same processor for the past 2 years. I've actually felt a difference. It's not drastic, but animations are nicer, apps load slightly faster, and I've had fewer stutters in general. The watch can still get jumpy once in a blue moon, so there's still room for improvement there. These watches come with 16GB of storage, but you only get around 7GB of usable storage. That's not a lot of space to store things like downloaded music or podcasts. Samsung is usually generous when it comes to specs, so it just seems strange that they won't at least match the 32GB that both Apple and Google offer. For the most part, I like the new one-click strap system. It's modern, it's convenient, and backwards compatible, but I have some concerns about how secure it is, especially with certain bands. I've had no issues with this fabric band because there is a slight stretch to it, but with a tighter strap like this leather D-buckle one, yeah, it's fallen off on its own multiple times, thankfully not on a hard surface. I thought the band was defective, but turns out my wrist bone here was actually hitting the quick release button. Wearing the band a little looser solves the problem, but it's something to be aware of if you like a tighter fit. There's a 300 mAh battery inside. If you keep the always-on display off, Samsung says you can expect up to 40 hours of battery life or 30 with it on. I personally like having the always-on display on, and with the following settings, I've been seeing around 26 to 28 hours, which means it's still a watch you'll likely have to charge daily unless you turn off several features. There's a reason why they market this as an all-day battery and not a multi-day battery. I usually charge both my phone and watch at the same time before bed and then pop it back on right before I go to sleep for sleep tracking. If you opt for a band that doesn't unbuckle completely, it won't play well with flat-lay wireless chargers like this one. So you might have to stick with the puck that comes with the watch. Software-wise, the watch runs Wear OS powered by Samsung. If you've never used a Galaxy Watch before, notifications are to the left, your customizable widgets are to the right. Swipe from the bottom to access all your apps and swipe down to access your quick settings. The top button quickly takes you to the watch face, holding it launches Google Assistant or Bixby, and double tapping it launches an app of your choice, like the stopwatch for example. The bottom button serves as your back button and holding it launches Samsung Pay. I love Samsung Pay, but there have been occasions where tap to pay won't work on the watch, but it'll work perfectly fine on the phone. The watch also supports gestures, which can be helpful for one-handed use. There's one for answering a call, one for declining a call, and one to quickly launch an app of your choice. I won't lie, they look a little funny, but work surprisingly well once you get the hang of them. A big part of why I even wear a smartwatch is so that I can take calls on my wrist. Especially with a 1-year-old now, I take like 80% of my calls on the watch, and you know what I wish they would upgrade? The speaker. It's fine if you're indoors, but if you're driving or walking down the street, wind and traffic noise can make it really tough to hear what someone's saying on the other end unless you hold it right up to your ear. An improvement that I noticed right away is that the vibration motor on my Galaxy Watch 6 Classic is a lot better than both my previous Galaxy Watches, the Watch 4 and 5. I used to miss notifications all the time because I couldn't feel it, but not with this one. They also introduced the ability to connect your watch to a new phone without resetting it. If you're switching your phone all the time for whatever reason, that makes life so much easier. but I imagine most people aren't switching their phones all that often. You can of course download apps directly onto the watch. For me, there's not much of a must-have. It's mostly just the Google ones like music for offline listening, home for controlling my smart devices, maps for turn-by-turn navigation, and keep for quickly referring to my notes. I'm also a big fan of the Stowcard app for storing membership cards that I might need during checkout, like my Costco card. WhatsApp also recently launched their Wear OS app, which is great considering how popular it is. On the health and fitness side, the watch has a couple of new tricks up its sleeve. First, there's a new HR zone training mode. Basically, once you toggle it on in the settings under the running exercise, you can select from 5 different HR zones depending on your goal. As you start running, the watch will prompt you to slow down or speed up to keep your HR in whatever zone you selected. Second, Samsung is introducing something called Sleep Animals as part of its sleep coaching. Basically, you take a quick quiz on your sleeping habits and you'll get classified as an animal. From there, it'll create a program with daily tasks like guided meditations and deep breathing to help you get a better night's rest. Does it work? Well, the advice is pretty generic and my sleep score hasn't improved very much, but I do respect that they're trying to make the coaching more personal. Also, normalizing meditation is something that I can totally get behind and something that I think a lot of people can benefit from. In terms of comfort, this isn't the smallest watch to sleep with, but the fabric band has been super comfortable. I highly recommend it. Other than those 2 changes, the experience is pretty much identical to my Galaxy Watch 5. There are plenty of amazing content creators who will go more in depth, but personally, it does a good job at keeping me accountable for my daily activity goals. Visually seeing that I wasn't very active by the end of the day will usually motivate me to get my butt off the sofa to go for a walk, run, or quickly hit the weights. It can also measure more advanced stuff like ECG, body composition, and blood pressure. But I take those measurements with a grain of salt and use them mainly to track trends in your health. A yearly checkup with your doctor is probably much better for your peace of mind. A question I get asked all the time is, what features do you lose when you pair it to a non-Samsung phone? So it won't work with an iPhone, but it actually plays very well with other Android phones. When paired with the Pixel 7, for example, you only lose out on a few notable Samsung-only features. You can't use the watch as a viewfinder or shutter button for your phone. You can't use the Find My Phone feature where you use the watch to ring your phone if you misplace it. And finally, the ECG and blood pressure feature are also locked behind the Health Monitor app that's only available on Samsung phones. I believe you can actually sideload it to get the features working, but there's always a risk of Samsung blocking that in the future. Other than that, you're not really missing out on much else. All in all, the Galaxy Watch 6 doesn't drastically change the overall experience. It looks more refined and runs a little smoother, but remember, a lot of the new software features will likely come to older Galaxy Watches too. It's great that they brought back the rotating bezel for those of us that enjoy it, but if you don't really care for it and you want something a little thinner, lighter, and cheaper, the Galaxy Watch 6 would probably be a better choice. As usual, thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, I'm out of here. Bye!